Well, hello. You're with Michael Crosby. Update. Well, I'm slowly moving through material, getting to that point. California Emergency Governance, Continuity of Operations Framework. Now, the understanding is we have major articles violations. We have 7 hierarchical parties in the regime that have invalidated the last 3 elections as well as the current election. We have people who are imprisoned by algorithmic isolation, basically electronic kidnapping. We have people that think that they're going to be able to perhaps succeed and deal with this through elections. Here's part of the problem. The problem is I'm the person who has more evidence than pretty much everybody else combined. Now, I'm not saying that other people aren't doing hard work and that they haven't discovered a lot of evidence. Yes, they have. But when I was putting information out over the course of the last several years, I had people not taking me seriously about the many multi-RICO operations ongoing in California. And now what are we seeing? The White House, the federal government coming in on what? Many multi-RICO situations. So this is where a lot of people need to understand that a lot of the information that I have, the evidence, is proprietary, because the most serious United States constitutional article violations and violations of the Constitution occurred against me in my archive. National security information is and was also in archive. These materials have been stolen, but prosecutorial agencies throughout the state have refused to do their job. They have literally walked away from their constitutional oath to protect archives, to protect the process of elections, and to protect national security. Now, part of the problem is we have a long-term, very intricate situation. I mean, frankly, we have an entire ticket. The entire Gavin Newsom ticket is disqualified. And because of what they did and the investigations and the evidence, it's more than just the last administration being disqualified. Because if you understand federal constitutional law at the correct level, you will understand it's far more. Because basically, when you catch anybody, whether it's members of Congress, for instance, or a governor, a legislature in another state committing mass violations of the Constitution, these parties are put on the hot seat. In other words, everything that they've involved themselves in is reviewable. If you've studied deep law, you'd understand everything that these people done is reviewable. If you catch members of Congress committing treason, every vote, everything they participated in is subject to review. You could literally undo the voting of Congress people. Now, understanding these items of law help you to understand the translative understanding respective to what? California. Because what's happened in California is basically a coup. Gavin Newsom and other members of the California DNC conspired to overthrow the process of elections. And that's a coup. When parties are caught red-handed, as they are right now, because they've attacked my campaign, Julie Su blacklisting me, a candidate, an archiver, a party that's involved in crucial items from time to time involving national security. See, the figure is it doesn't matter how much national security information is affected from the standpoint of the legal definition, because the legal definition is any national security information, which adds a whole array of different charges. So this means these people are busted red-handed. They're disqualified. Gavin Newsom has to be forcibly removed. Well, unless he surrenders, I'm not sure that he's willing to do that. So this is where we're at, voters in California and those who are curious around the nation. So yeah, there's a situation where, because they've been caught red-handed in these actions, all of their previous actions are reviewable. That means all of their people that they appointed are also disqualified. All the judges, all the appointees, all the people they hired. And because they're connected to the regime, to Gavin Newsom, their coup, these people lose their retirements. Over 4,000 people lose their retirements because the rules of law say they did not legitimately obtain those rights of retirement because they're disqualified. They were never supposed to be there, therefore they could never earn those retirement benefits. Therefore, those retirement benefits are stripped away. Voters, this is of key importance to understand. What we also have is, because this massive illegal activity has been, well, more than discovered, this means that the previous Gavin Newsom administration is also disqualified. That's right. Because everything that they've ever done is now reviewable. And because what they did to rig elections happened because they were already in power, that means that that previous administration is invalid. That means all the appointees, all the hirees from the previous administration are also disqualified. This means these people from the previous administration also lose their retirement benefits because the parties were involved in a major United States Articles violation. Again, an entire different administration. That's yet again more people. There's still accounting on that. And because we've established now that it's happened over the course, some of it ongoing, of multiple administrations, we also have additional determinations of things that occurred. Because previous administrations worked with management and setting up rules and special operations respective to what? Algorithmic management. Rules, regulations, allowances. And because the federal government has repeatedly basically found, for instance, Google guilty of impeding the free and unimpeded rule of internet, we also have election rigging that goes all the way back to Jerry Brown. That means anybody that was appointed or hired during the third term of Jerry Brown, well, some people call it the second, because the rules were only, well, when the law went into effect, he was already through a term, so they decided, well, he could run again because that would not be counted. But parties made mistakes. They went to Google and they complained. They complained that even though I was doing all of my, well, proper tags correctly, that for some reason they were not comfortable with me showing up ranking number 2. This was like a 3 to 6 week period when people would be typing in and all of a sudden I would be on the list on the first page. In many cases, I was linked number 2, depending on how you would type the material. Well, this didn't bode very well. I remember because I had lots and lots of people cruising by wondering who I was. Constantly having cars showing up. They found the office address, so to speak, and they kept showing up again and again. Anyhow, well, because Google has repeatedly lost and been found basically guilty in federal court, we have to understand that the management allowance designs and requests respective to the overall management of algorithms was not only allowed in the state of California, they participated in the molding of it. This means that the federal government has not pursued going after the state of California for their gross mismanagement. But this is basically like a bunch of dominoes falling down, one after another after another. I hope this helps you to understand a bit more about what is actually going on. Now, the problem is, how do you get reasonable, well, litigation to occur? Because why? The prosecutorial powers that be in California claim they're stuck in a series of policies which do not allow them to investigate and do certain things. Still others say, well, they could do it, except they're afraid. They're afraid for their friends and family. They're afraid of the California syndicate, the Newsom syndicate, as current. The California DNC syndicate. Well, at least the third, it is those extreme liberals that for some reason want to embrace, according to many people, terrorism and anti-constitutional belief systems and engage anti-constitutional laws. So because we have a domino effect that is now in the process, you need to understand that much of the evidence that makes this happen is proprietary. It's proprietary because I'm the main victim. Because it's I that have the right to file panel, which I did. And it is I who have the right to declare the major United States Constitution articles violations. Other candidates can't say, oh, this happened, so we're going to do this, this, and this. It doesn't quite work that way. This means that I'm the person that has the power to arrest all these people. I'm the person that has the evidence that's going to convict all these people. Sure, you got a lot of other people that have found all of these incredible items, and they're going after people, well, hopefully as fast as they can. We're seeing a lot of activity. We certainly are seeing a lot of activity. I'm going to say that. We have all of the, well, medical fraud, etc. So it's crucial to understand as we're at this point that literally the Jerry Brown appointees once again are also disqualified, all the hirees. Now, many of these people don't exist anymore. They no longer are serving. But here's the thing. As processing goes through, eventually what's going to happen is those people are going to lose their retirement because as the reviews go through, it will be determined that these people did not, in earnest, earn those retirement benefits. So as we start counting, we're getting up to statistics that are now more than 7,000 parties. So when we think about the massive financial damage that's occurred in California, and oh my goodness, what about all the victims? Well, now we see something. We see all these retirement accounts that are going to get seized from these people who participated in various types of illegal activity. So there's a silver lining here that comes out and will bring needed monies. Remember, retirement accounts are generally liquid. We're talking about a whole lot of liquid money, many, many billions of dollars. So I bring this out to you, voters. I place it on the table because I want you to understand what's going on. And there's more that I want you to understand. I want you to embrace certain key realities. Because we're dealing with people who repeatedly are now being connected, sometimes in the past, to foreign instruments, to spying, being connected to Marxist, communism, socialism, various types of entities that are child mechanisms actually dating back from origin to the Royal German Empire creating them as part of their master puppeting scheme to deal with Europe and to come up with new creative ways to use hundreds, sometimes thousands of people to engineer ways to make mechanisms and infiltrate and overtake various territories, business territories, territories in universities, territories connected to manufacturing, territories connected to unfair leverage and changing of laws respective to a lot of things, chemical plants, munition plants, pharmaceutical companies. Again, when we go back in history, there's a long-term plan connected to the Royal German Empire and what? Their various syndicate partners. That's right, there's an intricate series of different partnerships that occurred. Lots of them. Hundreds of them, easily. So as we deal with these certain realities, we end up with a clear understanding that we've basically fought two great wars with the Royal German Empire and their partners. They even had munition plants in the United States making munitions that were shipped to Europe, that were fired and killed our own people in World War I, our own people. Now, you can look a lot of this up on the web, but you see, putting all of this together as a full spherical omnibus is a way to manage that master, super archiving understanding of how the whole thing works. Again, these types of understanding were crucial for me to research and come up with a series of mathematical formulas to be able to come up with the proper mass economic modeling to come up with things like economic criminology, to understand a far deeper depth of parties involved, literally, in utilizing demographic taxation as weapons of war. Because these are items conceived, designed by European instruments. The origin goes back to the Royal German Empire. So when we have all of these different types of mechanisms that are European mechanisms, these things, as people have applied them and infused them into our governance, these are items that diabolically oppose the Constitution of the United States. And it's important to understand that these items were actually created to be utilized as occupational governance. This effectively means people are utilizing an illegal leverage design system, literally intentionally designed to destabilize people and their lives, their businesses, and of course, eventually governments. So we now have something we can do. We can look at that big, huge, long-term calendar and see how the child creations of the Royal German Empire and their various syndicates and partners have taken over areas all over the world. There's more than 300 million people dead if we account all the various facets and reasoning, whether you were trying to flee a region or whatever, or you fought as a soldier, whatever it is, all of the deaths have to be attributed to these parties' activities. That's more than 300 million people dead. So, as we deal with the exact mathematical logic formulas, and we work with colonial constitutional capitalism, our Constitution, which is to promote the general financial wellness in a continuing environment like a fairgrounds. The condensed word originally is known as welfare, and it's not about food stamps. To promote growth, we have a republic designed to actually assist us in growth to obtain financial betterment, while other parties want to put in science of governance to turn people into good workers, good socialists, and tax people unfairly, and keep coming up with tax after tax after tax, a never-ending thirst as they spread it around, and we have those occasional victims, people, where those taxes overlap certain people. You have some people that for some reason, these creative taxing situations keep overlapping people. You have people in the 400% tax bracket. They're completely being financially wiped out. We have seen the exits of businesses from California. We've literally seen, if we've looked, companies come in, internet companies, saying, look, our business is based on volume. Our markup is something that is between 8 to 14%, depending on business fluctuations throughout the year. If you put a 10% flat tax in, we will no longer be able to compete against our competitors. You will literally destroy our businesses practically overnight. And California just bowed their neck and says, well, we're just going to do this. They paid no attention whatsoever to the mathematical realities of what was conveyed and set on the table by people in business, saying, look, once again, our markup is 8 to 14%. We pick up our profit based upon volume, actually. And this 10% tax is going to wipe us out. So literally, people had to take their business, leave California, which cost money, it hurt, or shut down their businesses. In effect was immediately after the law went into effect, within 90 days, I believe it was, you had 60,000 people that were either fired or getting notice that they were ended. That's just one example of what's been occurring. So when you have people that are inventing mechanisms that diabolically oppose the most basic reasoning respective to necessary business practices to operate properly, you just have this huge mechanism doing massive damage. And they make excuse after excuse. They're utilizing taxation methods, permits, fees, etc. These were all designed respective with an origin to European instrument designs. So this has been crushing our state. And we've had so many decades go by, there are certain things that are just undeniable. The design of occupational governance sciences, the European mechanisms to go to people and say, we're putting taxes on all your wagons, all your horses. We're doing this, we're doing that. And coming up with what sounds like plausible reasons, but it doesn't have anything, these reasoning standards have nothing to do with good governance. Because American governance originally is designed based on growth. In other words, your labor is bankable for growth. To make brand new hard assets. If you make a whole lot of brand new hard assets, what does that mean? That means the territories inside the United States have more assets. Therefore, the appraisal of those additional assets, well, that goes on a tally sheet and is justification for an on-balance justification to print currency. That is how our system was designed from the very beginning. And we've had to deal with bribery and greed coming from abroad, attacking our colonial constitutional capitalism belief systems, our economic tactical table. An example here, let me give you one. Why would you be managing people in their lives respective to the government collecting money, for instance? If you're managing a burger flipper and you're taxing them $3,500, $3,800 a year, but you're not backing them to say, yeah, by the way, your labor's bankable. Let's guarantee you a new home construction loan where you can be the owner builder. That means you guarantee yourself an extra job. You get to schedule this over the course of a year and do this yourself. That means you get labor. You pay yourself. That means you're also the owner builder, which means you get to collect the additional equity profit factor. And if you're going to sell the home, you'll have a markup bonus respective to what a developer would get. So if you back the burger flipper to build one house a year, the statistical average is usually not less than, well, $140,000 in profit for both the burger flipper, but you're also creating new hard assets Well, if you're creating new hard assets, that's justification to print. That basically means, let me bring it straight to you, a printing of 70 cents on the dollar of the value of the new hard asset that was created because it did not exist before, and now it does. Therefore, its solidity. Justification to print new solid currency. It's backed by real estate. So the government managing burger flippers' lives could be yielding $140,000 every time this occurs, every year. So $3,500 or $140,000. See, if the government's going to make bank off of you by being able to justify the printing of new currency, why would they need to tax you? Why indeed? You see, that's an original constitutional colonial argument. You see, the British were taking advantage. They were appraising not just our properties that we created, they were doing other things. They were also appraising our communities collectively for taxation. And they used the balance of these understandings to do something, to justify the printing of notes. And of course, we had people in our colonies upset because their point was they're not even bringing a proper amount of this newly justified currency to be utilized in helping to build new infrastructure in the colonies. They knew we were making bank. I mean, that the British were making bank. That's part of the original argument. It's actually the number one argument, the very first argument that was brought forward by our forefathers in many of the private meetings. Yet virtually nobody understands this portion of history. Now, today, people understand things like cryptocurrencies, solidity, market caps, all these unique things. But the reality of many of these things comes with a whole lot of understanding. Again, if you're managing people for max production, for max efficiency, if you can back them to build real estate, new hard assets each year, why would you need to tax them $3,500? Do you see the basic unbalanced mathematical arguments for this? You see, the British got to the point where they turn around and says they weren't making enough money. And they turned around and says, well, you lazy, good-for-nothing colonist, it's too expensive for us to manage all of this. We're going to have to start adding taxes. And you had people that blew it. They said, that's it. These people are making bank off of us. We're developing all these assets. They're doing appraisals, putting ledgers together and justifying an array of reasoning to print new notes based upon what we're doing in our existence. This is ridiculous. These people are completely unreasonable. Again, welcome to the revolution, the original meaning of revolution, the original encompassment of logic and finances. So here, beyond the shadow of a doubt, we see the math on this as we do the, tactical table mass economic modeling. It's blatantly obvious. So people that keep inventing taxes, once again, these were occupational governance designs. They're constructs made by people who are liars, who diabolically oppose colonial constitutional capitalism. They're jealous and they hate the purity of our original items, and they have been working far too long to destabilize our finances. Now, here's where we need to do something. We need to show respect for our fathers, our forefathers, our great-grandfathers, our great-great-grandfathers, and others who fought, who paid through blood, through sweat, through wars, even death, to guarantee that we would have inheritance. The great acquisitions of lands, the government had no money. It was our money. We are the justification to be able to purchase the Louisiana Purchase and all the great land purchases. Thus, you have a tiered system occurring. Ownership, stock, promised but never issued. Now we're in modern times. It's going to work very well. I've designed some systems that will work very well. They'll model out very, very well. So here we have a point of logic where I have designed the perfect return to the original colonial, constitutional, capitalist viewpoint, the revolution itself, what we fought, the revolution, the way to bring the most optimum economy. That brings us to the great lift to restore. Shouldn't you respect the fact that your fathers, your great-grandfathers, your great-great-great-grandfathers, all these people sacrificed, they paid for you to inherit something. It's not for you to inherit being a good worker for the Communist Party or for the Socialist Party. You are a vested investor in a great land company, our republic. You're being cheated. Shouldn't you respect your inheritance? Shouldn't you respect yourself? Demand, stand up with me, join with me to restore colonial constitutional capitalism. Restore the Constitution, the device, the mechanism meant for all of us, well, at least all of us vested citizens. It may not sound like I have very much to offer illegal aliens, but frankly, the tactical table mathematical allowances are fixed points and percentages. This is why we have certain federal laws. We're not supposed to interfere with those who manage the wisdom of those numbers and those tactical table items that have to be done. Because if there's too much of an imbalance, we will be overrun and our country will be overtaken. Well, sadly, I've already showed you that part of our country has been overrun and overtaken by parties who have diabolical opposition to the Constitution of the United States. And this is the thing. If you're running for office, you have to put forward and give an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States, to uphold it. And these people have twisted things around and lied. So we have parties involved in treason. We must answer these threats, these attacks, these economic demographic attacks. Again, remember the burger flipper. Why would you tax a burger flipper $3,500 or another worker $8,500 or whatever the number is, when you can back them to build a brand new piece of real estate from scratch and justify the intake of $140,000 as a statistical average? There is no justification for what these people are doing. They're trying to destroy us. They are diabolically opposed to the Constitution of the United States. They are committing mass economic sabotage. And that has always been considered treason. They've been doing it for so long now that the balance on the books means there's no way they can justify it. We can't allow them to continuously stand up and says, oh, it's another emergency situation, we have to create a new tax. Oh, it's another emergency. No. At a certain point in time, we have such mass amounts of money being tapped that people literally are dying. They're being taxed to death, literally. We have people that had businesses that have been totally overwhelmed by these rule sets and mechanisms that are false, that are anti-constitutional. And many of these people have literally become homeless. We have many people living in vehicles, at least part-time, so they can save money. We have people in law enforcement, even firefighters, all over the place that are being cheated of their colonial constitutional rights to have their labor bankable, at least the vested citizens. There's 275 million vested citizens of this country. In other words, your forefathers, your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, they provided for you. They provided for you to have an inheritance. You need to respect both them and yourself and accept the truth of this and stand up and demand your inheritance. This is not about standing up in some kind of strange circus contests we're calling politics, as clowns run around throwing peanuts to you. And this is what you're voting on, how many peanuts you get. Stand up with me. Demand that you want your right to quickly in your life make $10 million to $80 million. Your choices should be 10 million or twice that or even more. Your blood, if it goes back 75 to 150 years or more, guarantees that you, by inheritance, are a vested citizen. It's not about this class or that class. It's about what was earned, what was paid for by your lineage that came before. You must respect yourself as you respect them. Don't listen to these lies that these parties are putting out. You need to stand up with me. The evidence is with me. The maximum amount. We can move forward. We can arrest these parties. We can put them into lie detectors. It's a standard practice. It has been since the 70s in California. If you wanted a government job, you had to pre-sign off on on-demand lie detectors. It's a standard policy in government. If you're a private citizen, it's a bit different. So today's ultimate item is an fMRI lie detector. You administer Truth Pharmaceuticals. You're doing a form of chemical evasive, so to speak. And parties reveal something and you record them with advanced equipment. We'll be able to use those recordings and place them in museums. They'll literally exist for thousands of years until people won't care to bring their children anymore and tell them, I brought you here because I want you to see this. I want you to see what real monsters look like. Liars that lie about math, that lie about what we did in the origins of the revolution to make this country. My name is Michael Crosby. I look forward to you making secure emails and begin sharing them on the web so that we can retrieve them and send you more information. I ask you to do it this way. Yeah, you'll get spam on those. But we're fighting people who are dangerous. There has been much violence. This should be obvious to most people right now. A lot of violence has been focused at me. I've had 2 attempted assassinations by gunfire. And you should believe it when the president tells you people that are doing important things, for some reason, just have more wackos coming after them. Yeah, more danger. Welcome to reality. I want to thank you for your time today.